Today's episode is number 321, and we're diving into your February fire-up to help you win the year 1 month at a time. And here we go with another solo episode. Yeah, I have too much fun when it's just me on the microphone. But hey, let's jump right into this one because we got a bunch of stuff to talk about today. Again, this is your February Fire Up, winning the year 1 month at a time. And as I always like to do on a solo episode is let's take a quick moment here to recap the past few episodes. Now, as you know, we have started brand new with Season 7 this year of the MindShare PodCast. Again, every time I say that, it still blows me away. But that's what happens. Consistency is the magic ingredient to achieving anything you want in life. So, past few shows on episode 317. Now, I kicked off the year with a solo episode on episode 316. So, if you didn't catch that one, I really highly encourage you to go back and check that one out. But when it came to episode 317, we had my buddy Ryan Stewman on the show, and we talked about hardcore strategies for crushing 2025. No bullshit. Now, Ryan's a hardcore dude. He spits a lot of fire, dropped a bunch of F-bombs, but he really delivered a pretty strong sound message. It was a great show, and I really encourage you. I had a ton of great feedback from people on that. And talking about your February Fire Up, he definitely got us fired up for January. So again, I encourage you to go back and listen to that one. Episode 318, The Future of Realtor.ca. Had a good conversation with Janice Myers, Kriya's CEO. We talked about a lot of the decisions that Kriya's been making lately around Realtor.ca. We talked about the market, what's going on out there. She also gave some insights from a leadership perspective. Really, really great conversation. And again, if you're operating in Canada here in the real estate world, obviously definitely encourage you to tune into that episode and really catch what, that great conversation between Janice and I. On episode 319, we talked about mastering the ultimate client experience, how to win clients and grow your business. I had Coach Brad Dick on the show. I've known Brad for many, many years. He actually used to be a colleague of my wife, Jennifer, back when he was up here in Toronto working. He has since moved down to the United States of America, and down there he was running a coaching business, teaching businesses how to provide exceptional experience. Episode, what do we got here? 320, building a billion-dollar real estate business from $147 million to $10 billion. I had special guest, president of Harvey Callis Real Estate, Mr. Michael Callis. He was in Florida at the time of recording. I was super jealous. I could not see any palm trees, but he said it was nice weather. Anyhow, fantastic conversation with Michael. Some fantastic insights. This is, when you look at Harvey Callis, you talk about one of the top luxury real estate brokerages there are in the entire city, never mind the country, probably on the continent. These guys are working with some of the, the biggest and most successful individuals there are in this country when it comes to buying and selling real estate. So the deals that they do, just, multiple millions of dollars on a regular basis. But a powerhouse of a brokerage. Michael is a first-class individual, spoken incredibly, incredibly well, shared insights on the market, shared insights on leadership, shared insights on the brokerage. We talked a lot about, advice for realtors. So, again, always make sure you tune in and catch those episodes. And, of course, on episode 321, we talked about how to build your personal brand, giving you a strategic playbook. And I had Camille Moore on the show. She's a branding expert, president of a company called Third Eye Insights. That was a cool show. She talked to us about brand. I know a lot of times people think, hey, I got to get rebranded. I've got to build this whole new brand. But, the question comes back from it is like, what's your purpose? And once you've gone out and done the photo shoot and you've got sort of what you think is this new look for you with photos and logos and colors, which, by the way, photos, logos, and colors are not what you call a brand. And I know we stated that together on the previous show, but I'm going to reiterate that to you, right? Because you got a lot of people thinking, like, you go build a brand and it's about creating a set of logos and a color. But it's so much more than that. As Brad and I talked about, it's about the experience you create. It's about the memories that people have of working with you or using your service or using your product. It's about MindShare, building that MindShare and, being top of mind. In fact, again, MindShare, and even synonymous with branding, is finding a little tiny space in somebody's brain and staying there for instant recollection until they need what it is that you do. Anyhow, great conversation with Camille. Great conversation with all of our guests. We've really kicked off season 7 on a high note. I'm super pumped about it. Some fantastic episodes. And again, to all of you that are regular listeners, as I always say, a huge thank you. Without you, this show doesn't continue to grow and get listened to and seen by more people. And if you're a brand new listener, I thank you for joining us today. And again, I encourage you, go back and tune in some of the episodes. Go scroll through all the past episodes that we've got. We always are fortunate to have some amazing guests with some amazing insights on really how to take you and your business to your next level. And, well, hey, that's always the game plan here with MindShare 101. So, hey, let's get into it right now. So here's what I want to do today, okay? We're gonna take the next 4 hours. No, I'm joking. Don't turn me off. But I do want to go through a few things with you. We're going to talk about a quick January review. I want to talk about January for a moment, and I know it's in the past, and why are we talking about January, but there's a couple things that we want to do there and little checkpoints that we need to have, and it's important that we do that as we prepare ourselves for February. I want to talk about the current market, rates, tariffs, realities, what's going on out there, and how's it going to impact our buyers or sellers, and what do we need to do in order to win no matter what. Now, of course, on a day-to-day, there's always something else coming at us, and, well, let's talk about the struggle of the daily grind, okay? What are we going through? How are we going to deal with it? We're going to get into that. And then we're going to talk about prepping for a winning spring market. And I know that when there's a lot of white stuff falling from the sky, people think prepping for a winning spring market. Man, it's still winter out there. Well, the thing is, if you wait till spring to talk about the spring market, you're going to miss the spring market. So I'm going to get you prepared for that, because no matter what's going on out there, we're going to win. That's our job. And then we'll end with a note about sort of your mindset for success and the things that I really believe you need to be thinking about and sort of angling towards as we work through these next number of days in this month. Because again, when we're trying to achieve something, it's one thing to look at the sort of totality of it, the end game of it, the fact that we just want it all. But in order to get there, we got to break it down step by step by step. And so this is exactly what we do, right? We take the big goals that we've got, the big aspirations we got, the big targets we've got, and we crunch them right down into from annual to monthly to weekly to daily to hourly. Well, that's how we win. And much like this right now, in order to execute consistently on this podcast, we need to be consistently executing. Obviously. I just said that. I repeated myself. I know that. But the point is, we've got to be consistent. We've got to map out our time. Anyhow, speaking of time, let's get into this, right? A January review. Your wins, your losses. So I know for us, we kicked off the year on a pretty high note, okay? We looked back from November, maybe probably mid-October, and we had a plan for what, January was going to look like. We had planned for what 2025 was going to look like. And no, it does not always go according to plan. However, when you do have a plan, you can execute. So the question I have for you is, how did your year kick off? What were your biggest wins? What didn't quite line up for you? See, I realize I've said this before. I do that a lot, right? Like I say things, I'm like, yeah, I've said that before. I know, but I'm going to say it again. Repetition and consistency. So as you go back and you think, okay, I had these goals, I wanted to accomplish something. Again, what were your biggest wins? Where did you win? What did you do when you set out to embark on January that you look back on the end of January and go, in that particular area, I really did a great job. I stuck to my workout routine. I was going like on a daily basis almost. Okay, great. I did more workouts than I did in December or November. Great. Or I made more phone calls. Or I got my email newsletter sent out twice a month, which I always tell you need to be doing. And what didn't you quite accomplish? Right? Like what didn't go the way you wanted? Did you make as many phone calls? Were you as active on social media as you wanted to be? And again, disclaimer, When we talk about active on social media, we are not talking about just scrolling and endlessly stalking people. We are talking about actually creating conversation, actually creating connections, building relationships. What else didn't you do? So what I'm really asking you to do here is go back to your goals for January and ask yourself, what could I have done better? And this way we could take it and roll into February recognizing, hey, this didn't go exactly the way I wanted it to, but you know what? Out of 11 or 12 months, it's only 1 month. I still got 11 months left. Look, this isn't just about setting goals. When we think back to what we want to accomplish, what we have accomplished, what we haven't accomplished, this is about actually evaluating. This is about looking at the raw, hard data and adjusting where needed. Actually taking stock for a moment and saying, okay, January, I won here, I lost there, I want to continue to win here, and I want to get better with there. So as you think back to like where you won, you think back to where you missed, I also want you to think for a moment, what lessons did January teach you? What did it tell you about you? I mean, you might come up with an answer that just says, you know what? It's too hard to get it all done. Or, you know, that goal I set was way too big. And I'm going to tell you something. Just because you didn't get to it in January doesn't mean it was too big. And I know I don't know what you set specifically or how much you set out to get to, but I do want to push you to strive for more. I do want to push you to think to yourself, hey, I've got more in me. I want to accomplish more. So what lessons did you learn about yourself? Were you scheduling the way you needed to? Were you as prepared as you needed to be on a regular basis? Right? If you weren't doing those things, these are things we need to pay attention to. So again, here's your action step right now, okay? As we look back on January, and I did recommend something very similar to you in the month of November and the month of December. But I want to suggest that you grab a notebook, or open up your app, okay, and jot down 3 things that worked for you and 3 things that didn't. Okay, when I say worked for you, again, I planned to schedule my day every day the night before. Great. How did that go? I planned to call, 3 to 5 people on a daily basis to check in and say hello so I could do my follow-ups. Great. How did that go? Talk about that. And I'm not talking about just, what we call, quote unquote, busy work. I'm talking about your actual roadmap. Okay, and what we're doing now is we're looking again at the goals, we're looking at the structure, and we're literally going line by line here. And this is going to take a moment because if you go too fluffy, too high level, if you think, I don't really know, I'm kind of going to do this on the fly, you're actually setting yourself up for February to be very similar to what January looked like. Now, if you do look back on January and think to yourself, hey, I know it wasn't my best month. I know I could have been better. And quite frankly, even if you had a good month, I challenge you right now. I know you could be better. You know you could be better. I know I could be better. I think we had a pretty good January. Would I like it to be better? Of course I would. Okay. So let's go through line by line on the things that I set out to accomplish as my goals for 2025, the broken down goals to monthly increments, and ask myself what January looked like. And I do that every month. At the end of the month, a couple days in, because we want to run the numbers, we want to do the books, everything else, I'm going to take about 30 to 60 minutes, and I'm going to tally up what January looked like. I'm going to tell you what each month looked like and go, hey, all these different things I was supposed to accomplish, how did they stack up versus the monthly goal that I set for myself for each of those things? Some of them I see I win. Some of them I see I missed. And, there's going to be a ton of lessons to learn. Now we're going to leverage all of that to walk into February. Now, as you listen to this, I realize you're already sort of, a week and a half, 2 weeks into the month. But that doesn't stop us. This process goes on every single month. That's, again, how we review where we won and where we lost, and how we can make improvements so we can be even better the following month. This is where growth comes from. So there's the process. Review your wins, review your misses, jot down the lessons, get a good sense of what's going on, and let's rock. All right. section 2. But just before we do that, this is your coffee break. This is your coffee break. This is my coffee break. Don't worry, it's not a very long coffee break. It's just a quick sip. You can probably hear that on the mic. All right, let's talk about the current market right now. Rates, tariffs, trade wars between brothers and sisters, and realities to what this all means in our marketplace and what it means for us and what it means for our clients, our buyers, our sellers. We know in a very awesome news, and actually I'll give you some insights into a conversation I had yesterday as well, but we know that rates just came down. So the BOC once again has dropped the rate. We are now at 3 points. This is all good. This is great for the economy that the rates are coming down. It's great for buyers, for mindsets. It's great for affordability. I mean, there's a number of different things this is really, really good for, obviously. And, you know, when we think about that, if I go backwards to, I guess this time last year in 2024, there were a lot of folks that were on the sidelines saying, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait it out. I'm going to see what happens. And they waited. They wanted to see if the rates were going to drop. And naturally, for some people that did wait, they did see the rates come down. Now, as we know, as we approach sort of the spring market and people start to get a little bit more excited about making moves, and it's always, kind of really the busiest time of the year, we know that there's going to be people out there that are going to, we know that we're going to see prices because volumes will start to go up a little bit of like how many houses on the market, activity's going to pick up. We might see prices go up slightly. But what we're also faced with right now is not just rates that are coming down and money that's getting a little bit easier to get a hold of, making buying power a little bit stronger. We know that there's this, this big new thing called tariffs going on here. And that will significantly impact what's actually going to happen when it comes to, again, the spring market, the buying power, what people's psyches are. As we see the rates come down, okay, again, there's that increased activity. Okay, so lower interest rates usually will help, spur the market. Usually will help with affordability. But then when we talk about these tariffs and, whether they're, fully in play just yet or the Donald is going to push them off till March, kind of like we did with Mexico, or if, our incredible federal government is going to be able to navigate this. And, I say that like all joking, totally joking, not jokes aside, like I'm totally joking. They are not incredible, but I'm not going to go down that road today. Okay. But if we could save this off, who knows? But we got to think about, this is again right now bringing us back to a similar place where we were last year at this time when people were uncertain about the rates. Now we're uncertain about the tariffs. So there's a lot of economic uncertainty going on. And that is going to, again, have people have that sort of wait-and-see approach. Construction costs. Tariffs are obviously going to increase the cost of imported building materials, which is going to naturally, dovetail to leading to higher construction costs and impacting even new developments. As we know, those are slowed. But, again, and we've obviously got problems, with shovels in the ground in this country. But It's also going to contribute to inflation. It could include, or I guess the influence on sort of future interest rate decisions and how that's going to affect mortgage rates. When you really look at all of this together now, and I've come back from the whole thing and thought to myself, if they're taking the rate down, that's one angle. But as tariffs are getting imposed and there's more money needing to be paid out, that money's going to need to come from somewhere. And yes, it'll come from the companies that are buying the goods and whatnot. But, there's a lot of stuff going on at the government level as well. And when it comes to taxation, that's where my fear starts to come in right now. So if you really look at, the residential sector, that combination of lower interest rates, pent-up demand, is expected to bolster the housing market this year. However, affordability does remain a concern, especially in sort of these major urban centers, right? If we look on a commercial side, again, despite those rate cuts, the commercial real estate sector is going to continue to sort of face the headwinds with a lot of investors remaining cautious about, sort of what's going on, again, geopolitical, right? Like we look at the uncertainties going on out there. Now, while this continues to happen, these tariffs, they introduce that layer of uncertainty for everybody. And so what you want to do at the end of the day here, and again, I guess I'm kind of like running in I don't want to say rambling or running in circles about this whole thing, but as I try to wrap my head around it, like I spoke to somebody yesterday who's, knee deep in the banking sector. And he seemed just angry, like livid over this. He's like, this guy didn't go and consult with anybody, didn't ask anybody, didn't realize, all the different moving parts. I mean, it's a very two-dimensional play here, but I would also say this. The reason that this guy did this, when I say this guy, President Trump, the reason that he's doing this, because he's telling the rest of the world that if you mess with me, I'm going to mess back with you. And that was kind of putting it politely and nicely, right? But think about it. If he can go and actually slap this on Canada, brothers and sisters, and do this to us, the rest of the world's going to sit there and go, if he's going to do it to Canada, he's going to do it to us for sure. So I also believe there's a bit of posturing going on, and it doesn't mean that he's not necessarily going to do this. And again, by this time as you're listening to this, it might already be imposed, because we know that it was supposed to take effect on the 5th of February, and then there was also some push over to March, so we're still actually not the 5th just yet today. So we haven't got the total, the total package of what's going on. But again, as we think about these rates, as we think about the tariffs, as we think about realities, your action step is to update your client presentations, update any talking points you have with people, get yourself educated on what's actually going on, read up on it, take a little bit of an angle on it, understand it. So that, again, when you're having those conversations with the clients, especially if they're talking to you about potentially wanting to make a move, but, kind of wanted to wait to see what happens, you can have those conversations. I mean, somebody else talked about the fact that, hey, as the rates begin to go down and those tariffs begin to come in, one thing you do want to think about, and it's, from what I understand, and again, I'm not giving you mortgage advice right now or financial advice right now. I'm just kind of sharing some of the good word that I hear from colleagues of mine. There will be a point where you're going to want to lock that rate in. So those mortgage rates, if you're up for renewal, you might want to look at a fixed rate instead of getting into variable or being in a variable. You might want to look at, say, okay, it's time to lock in. But again, seriously speaking, you speak to a mortgage broker, speak to a finance expert about that. That's not my area to be really providing full advice to you. Moreover, just as a talking point, as something to think about to what's going to impact your success this year. Okay, because again, naturally speaking, if it becomes difficult to buy houses or all these costs are imposed and everybody's having tougher times economically, obviously houses are not going to be moving the same way. So what you can do is, again, educate yourself so you know what to say to people when you're having a conversation with them. And that will help move the needle. Because if you can have an educated conversation, you might just realize people got to make the move anyways. And so, again, two things to remember as well when you're having conversations with potential buyers or sellers is, one, you want to establish their motivation. Okay, so dig for their motivation. So really figure out, like, why do you want to make this move? And then establish timelines, right? When do you want to make the move? And you really want to hone in on both of those and asking a lot of open-ended questions, because those are two questions, but the deeper you dig, the more you're going to find out. So until you get to the be-all and end-all motivation, until you truly establish the timelines on which they want to make a move, so you can understand, is this something that could happen in the next 30, 60, 90? Is the next 3, 6, 9 months? What is it? Is it next year? It'll also help you so you're not spinning your wheels. All right. Yeah, by the way, if you can't hear the slurp of coffee, the sip of coffee, that was a sip, and when I go totally quiet, it's probably because I'm taking a sip of coffee. So, speaking about spinning your wheels, let's get into the next area of this conversation today. The struggle of the daily grind. Look, everybody I talked to is feeling the pinch. I was on stage the other day. There was about 400 people in the audience, and I put up a slide. And I mean, you can visualize this, right? It was a sort of person okay, holding a big boulder on their back while they were walking up a hill. Do you ever feel like that? See, everybody I talked to is feeling the pinch. Everybody. Everybody looked at that picture and just in sort of unison, all kind of looked and went, oh yeah, that's me. Okay? Life is more expensive. And despite working harder, it seems harder to move forward for people. Again, this is going to come back to a lot of the taxation going on, how much money we're being left with after we actually go out and work for our money. You know, and if you actually start to run the numbers, it is a ridiculous percentage that they keep based on our hard work. Not to mention, Jennifer just mentioned to me the other day that a cucumber at the grocery store was $2.59. I'm like, I don't really go to the grocery store much. I don't like going to the grocery store, so I'm like, how much are they normally? It's like, they used to be 59 cents. Oh, well, that's a huge change. And that's what's going on out there. So, you know, government's taking more of our money through taxes. Goods and services are becoming extremely, extremely expensive. And again, back to just what we talked about with the tariffs, it's looming that, you know, things are going to get even more expensive. And so here we are, constantly struggling to get more business done, do more deals, generate more money. And it's like we just feel like we're not able to keep it all. It feels like we're working so hard and not making enough. Now, unfortunately, we don't have a ton of control over any of this. I mean, you could argue it depends on who you vote for. You could argue, you know, it depends on how you want to spend your days. Maybe you want to go and you want to lobby for some of these things to change. But if you're like most other people, you've got a mortgage to pay, you got, you know, mouths to feed, you got food to put in the fridge, clothes to put on the back, gas to put in the car, insurance to pay for, and oh boy, the list goes on. So there's realities of, I got to get up and I got to work and I'm going to make money. So what we've got to be thinking about when it comes to that daily grind is, if you're waiting for a sign to kind of feel totally ready to do something, it's you know, stop waiting. Okay? This is about doing more right now with what you have right now. Okay? So think about the things that you need to be doing. To be focused on the negative news and the media and all the stuff that they spew on a regular basis, to be focused on that on an ongoing basis, you're going to run yourself crazy. Because there's a lot of negativity out there. But we have goals. We got things we want to accomplish. And in order to get there, it's very important to stay focused on what we're supposed to do, those daily non-negotiables. So ask yourself, no matter what's going on out there, I want you to focus on in here. Focus on you. Focus on your goals. Focus on what you want to accomplish. And ask yourself, what must get done each day, in your day, to make a real impact for yourself? What must get done each day to make a real impact for yourself? Again, it could be going to the gym. It could be making the phone calls. It could be getting on and sending emails. And it could be following up with people. And it could be meeting with people. And it could be adding somebody new to your database. It could be running your kids to sports. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we need to be doing every single day to feel like we're actually getting things done. And look, I get it. There's only so much time in a day. You only got 24 hours, and you know you're going to eat, you're going to sleep, you're going to use the washroom. So you got to look at those remaining hours and ask yourself, what am I doing to make the most of those hours? And if you're spending way too much time on social, way too much time on email, or just being reactive to your day, that is a telltale sign to why you are not achieving what you want. Why you are feeling overwhelmed every single day. Why you feel like there's that daily grind. And don't get me wrong, the daily grind is going to be real no matter what all the time. It's always going to be a grind. But it could be a chaotic grind, or it could be an organized grind. It could be a chaotic grind that has zero plan, or it could be an organized grind that tells you exactly where you're going, and when you can breathe, and when you can stop, and when you got to go. And if you pay attention to the plan that you set for yourself, which is what you're supposed to be doing, then you will get the things done that you need to get done in your day, and you will end the day feeling a lot better about what you accomplished that day. And again, although it'll be a grind, it'll be a very successful grind, and it's going to help you get to where you want to be. Now, speaking of where you want to be, okay, now, again, you just so I was clear on that. Your action step there was list your daily non-negotiables. What's got to get done every day to make a real impact on you. And again, do not isolate just to business. We're talking about business and personal. What are those items? And look, fully transparent here. I want to go to the gym 5 days a week. A couple of weeks ago, I pulled my back. Made it difficult to go to the gym, so I took a little bit of time off. But then the time off on the next day, and then the next day, and the next day, and all of a sudden I created a compound effect. And it's become that much more difficult for me to get back to the gym. However, I'm kicking my own ass, and I am going. Much the same, though, when I look at everything else that's got to get done in a day, it's like, how do you fit it in? Well, you got to find the time. And as you're finding the time, and you're setting the time blocks, and you're putting stuff into your schedule, you're mapping your goals in there, you're preparing the day before, you're going to realize that there's times where you get a little bit frazzled. There's times where you don't accomplish exactly what you wanted to accomplish. There's times where you stress. Well, part of that is the learning. See, I'd say if we go back to the first section here about wins, misses, and lessons, the win is that you're actually trying. The miss is maybe you've packed too much in there. The lesson is, okay, I've packed too much in there. How am I going to change what I'm trying to accomplish in a day slightly? Just little tinkers, little maneuvers, to find a proper rhythm that's going to allow me to actually get it all done. Okay, so again, what I'm working to do here is I'm working to get things done in a day, but I've got to find my rhythm. And once I find that rhythm, I can fit the gym in, I can fit the calls in, I can fit the meetings in, I can fit the podcasts in, I can fit whatever in that I got to do, to be that version of me that I want to be. And it's exactly what I'm saying to you. So again, if you're struggling with the daily grind like most 99.9% of people are, start with understanding the goals, understand what needs to be blocked off in your day, block it off, work towards it, and then again, as you have to, just change it up a little bit, adjust where you need to. Find that rhythm. Now, we talk about finding the rhythm. We talk about the struggle of the daily grind. I also want to talk here, as I mentioned earlier, about preparing for a winning spring market. Okay, because no matter what's going on out there, it's very easy to have a negative mindset. This is, rates came down, but tariffs went up, or tariffs are happening, and, people aren't buying, and, life is chaotic, and the government's taking too much money from me. Look, we got to put blinders on and stay focused on the goal. Stay focused on what it is we're trying to accomplish. So we need to, again, set ourselves up for the success no matter what, because the busy season is here. Now, I know, mid-February, what do you mean, Dave? It's not here yet. Well, it's already started, right? Because think about this now. You talk to people you know, right? And what you want to be doing is you want to be laying that foundation, right? These are what we call impactful actions. These are what set the groundwork for you. Okay, if you wait for the market to wake up in the spring, you will be late. It's like getting out of bed late. You're going to miss it. The people that are thinking about making a move in the spring, they're thinking about it right now. And if they're not necessarily thinking about it right now, but they possibly will make that move, now's the time to talk to them about it. Now's the time to have the conversation. Now's the time to start planting that seed. Because what happens is you're going to have the conversation with somebody. They're going to speak to you about it. And then at some point, they're going to go, okay, cool, yeah, let me think about it. Or let me talk to my wife or my husband about it or whoever. And then all of a sudden, a few weeks passes by. And then a few more weeks passes by. And the next thing you know, you're a month behind. And next thing you know, it's mid-March. And now we're in the thick of the spring market, 100%. So now is the time to make those actions happen, to take action, make the calls, have the conversations. Notice how so much of what I say comes back to making the calls. I mean, you could say, yeah, send out your email newsletters, post it up on social media, send out a printed newsletter. But you got to make the calls. You got to have the conversations. It's all about conversations. If you're not having conversations, nothing's really going to happen. So if you think about it, right, what do we say to a client who's on the fence about buying or selling right now? Well, let's go back to what I said a moment ago. Dig for the motivation and establish timelines, right? When you think about those two steps right there, dig for the motivation. Why are you making a move? We have to dig. Oh, we just feel like downsizing, or we feel like upsizing, or, we want to change the neighborhood. Well, why? Let's talk about more why. What is it that's bothering them? If you were in their shoes, would it be a need to make a move? Maybe just a want to make a move? Or it's like, yeah, it sounds like a nice idea. We've got to dig for that motive. Okay? So as you ask the question, why do you want to make the move? Or if they ask you about the rates, or what do you think about the tariffs, or what do you think is going to happen in the market? Why do you want to know? And again, you gotta script that in your own words. You gotta make it come off like you're not trying to be dodgy about something. But ask them why. Dig for why they're asking you, and keep asking those open-ended questions until you fully understand. And you can say to yourself, I know what their motive is to why they want to make a move. Then, go to step 2. Again, establish those timelines. When do they want to make the move? Is there a specific date they have to make the move by? What's the next steps here? What's the plan? Okay? So again, as we're thinking about preparation for the spring market, we want to look at all our channels. Remember the 7 ways to communicate: in person, by phone, text message, direct mail, email, social, and your website. All 7 channels are strong ways for you to communicate that the spring market's coming, that you are in the business, that you are here to help. Well, we've also got to remember it's always a people business. And so when you're out speaking with people, we want to find a way to have these conversations. And the more we communicate and the more we put ourselves out there that we're here to help, the more we build on those relationships that we have with others, the more they're going to entrust in you. Because especially when money gets difficult and things get expensive, people want to shy away. They don't want to drop their guard and tell you they're having money problems or that they need financing help. It's a personal thing. So the cliche line of know you, like you, trust you, in order to trust you, they need to know you and like you. And then hopefully you're in the trust. Now it's the trust you need to earn before you get the business. So it's those conversations you have, it's the knowledge you have about what's going on out there that's going to make them trust you and potentially want to hire you. Now on that note, I will also say, a lot of times what happens here, because we want the deal so badly, we don't think about the fact that we need to get that contract. We just think about trying to figure out what we can do to help. And I like the word help. I love the word help. I think it's a fantastic thing. You just don't want to get yourself in a situation where, again, you're constantly spinning your wheels in the mud and not getting anywhere because they're not signing a contract with you. They haven't hired you, but you're doing all sorts of work for them. Your time has value. You've got to value that time. Go back to the 24 hours in a day and the eat, the sleep, the washroom. You've only got so much time in a day to accomplish what you want in life. Now, I recognize some of what you want is more deals. The byproduct of all that is more money so you can do other things you want to do in life. I get it. 1 + 1 = 2. But let's remember that if we're not under contract and we're not going to get the deal necessarily, then all the work that we did before is on a hope and a prayer. At some point, we've got to establish that actual working relationship with people. Don't dig a hole for yourself. Otherwise, again, you're adding more work to your plate. You're not getting paid. And again, when it comes to the mindset, that daily grind, it's not going to be very easy for you to get over it because you're going to think to yourself, oh my God, why did they do that to me? Why didn't they work with me? They know that I'm there. I've been helping them with stuff. Yeah, but you didn't do a good enough job getting them ink on paper to create a contract together. So give. I like that. Give. Help. But remember, too, your time has value. And when there's only so much time to get things done, we got to be smart about what we do with our time. So as again, we look at the action step to preparing for the spring market. Start making the calls now. Start having the conversations now. Do the follow-ups now. As people are brushing you off, let's talk about it in a few weeks. Remind them why the time is now. Okay? Because again, rates down, tariffs up, or tariffs coming. There is speculation rates will come further down, which is a fantastic thing, which might have people waiting even more. But again, the more they wait, the more you have to wait. So we want to create action. Have the conversations. That's where the action is going to come from. Now, that's a perfect lead in right here to sort of the final segment of today's show. And I really want to emphasize the need for resilience and the need for adaptability. Resilient to, again, the market changes. Resilient to the amount of things that are on our plate. Resilient to the fact that people may want to wait, and it's kind of pushing back on what we think we want to achieve this year, because it's like, well, we can't achieve if they're not going to do. I got you. Anything that's going on out there, we've got to become even stronger versions of us. And I will tell you, feeding your brain on a regular basis. And you listen to this podcast, you're feeding your brain. Think about reading books. Think about learning from other people that are incredibly successful. Talk to colleagues of yours. Really do something to feed your brain on a daily basis that reminds you you're not the only one. Okay? Other people go through it too. People have issues out there. Not everybody talks about it. Okay? And I'm not talking just, personal issues. I'm like, we could talk business issues, personal issues, whatever. But you got to be resilient. Right? You got to find a way to work through it all. And that's why I keep coming back to focus on the goals. Okay, and really looking at that, because that just keeps you on the path. That's the vision, so you can execute, right? You go on a mission, you go to execute on that vision. And the adaptability part, right? Again, like we talked about a moment ago, about finding your rhythm. Things are going to change, things are going to happen. We don't have a crystal ball to see what's going to happen tomorrow, but we could be prepared for it. We could be in tune with what's going on out there. We can have conversations with people to get a flow of what's happening. I mean, best way that I learn is through all the calls and all the conversation, all the coaching calls I do, and all the the meetings I have with people. Just learn. Just ask questions. And the more you ask those questions, the text messages I send, the DMs that I do with people, like we're having, dozens and dozens of conversations with people across all sorts of different channels every single day. I like to learn, because the more I learn, the more I can feed back to you and say, look, this is the pulse of the market right now. Here's what's happening. Like I can straight up tell brokers right now, broker owners, agents aren't coming in the office as much right now. That's impacting culture, which is having a lasting impact on like retention and recruitment. And these are problems. For agents, consumers right now are kind of on the fence. We know these things. So again, adaptability, right? What am I doing to learn? What am I doing to really bob and weave a little bit, to kind of change the flow if I need to? Well, again, part of it comes back to, we look at that annual, that monthly, that weekly, that daily, that hourly. We're breaking down to see, okay, what needs to happen now? Look, remember this. You're not just a participant in your life and your career. You're the leader. You are the one who's got to take action. So it's about leading with actions, not just with plans. It's one thing to say I set my goals. It's another thing to actually work on achieving your goals. It's one thing to say I know what I need to do. It's another thing to actually plan on what to do. It's another thing on saying, oh my God, it's hard. I don't know how to. I don't want to get past it. But it's another thing to find solutions. You have the power. You are in control. I remind you, nobody is coming to do it for you. Got to remember that. This is on us. You want something? You want to accomplish something? You got this. You got all the power in the world to make this year your best year ever. I'm going to continue to remind you about that. So look, we broke down a whole bunch of stuff here together today, okay? Again, we talked about, sort of looking at your January, understand where you won and where you lost, what those lessons are, and how you can implement that for February, how you can implement it for March and April and May. And these are things that you need to do every single month. Part of what you want to do is make sure you get yourself caught up, do some reading, understand what's going on with the current market, the rates and the tariffs and the realities, of the impacts on the economy. When you think about what's going on in your days and how much you have to do, again, look back, find your rhythm. Find your rhythm. Understand what needs to happen. And then when you think about the spring market coming up, yeah, it's coming up now, right now. What you do now is what sets you up for what you get tomorrow. Okay, so don't wait. You got all the power in the world to make this an amazing month for you, to make the spring market kick ass for you. And as always, if you need help with any of it, I'm going to be right here for you.